If there's a character in the anime world who's known as a walking joke, that guy is Yamcha. For a lot of people, he's the symbol of failure, the guy who always gets beaten up and blown away, or gets left out when things get serious. But does all this mockery really make sense? Let's be honest, being at the bottom of the food chain in a story where there are people destroying planets, solar systems, or even entire universes isn't that shameful, is it? Recently, I made 2 videos that were very controversial. First, in Naruto's land, Kuririn is God, where I thoroughly examined Kuririn's strength. And in this video, I concluded that to rival Kuririn, you'd have to be at least a top tier in Naruto. Even then, the battle would be very complicated. Now, in the video about how far Naruto would realistically get in Dragon Ball, many commented that I overpowered the Naruto characters, but each video has a different purpose. In my series, How Far Each Character Would Get, I always use the best possible interpretations of the dialogue bubbles, really trying to take the character as far as they have even the slightest chance of victory. Even so, Naruto went pretty far with his Rikudo mode. And today it's Yamcha's turn to face another shonen titan, the entire Naruto universe. Yes, in Naruto's world, is Yamcha a god? And in this video, I'm going to do with Yamcha exactly everything I did with Naruto in that video. In other words, we're going to take everything he has in his favor, whether from the anime or manga, to categorize his power, without, of course, disrespecting any Naruto character. After all, a difference in power scale doesn't define the quality of a work. Could the former desert bandit who became a baseball player and a martial artist in his spare time have a chance to solo all the ninjas from the Leaf Village? Or would he be turned to dust quickly, surrounded by gods, tailed beasts, and genetic tricks? To answer that, we'll examine Yamcha at his prime, considering his feats up to Dragon Ball Super. On the other side, we'll consider the Naruto universe up to the end of Shippuden, disregarding the ongoing story of Boruto. Unlike Kuririn, who is admitted by the anime to be stronger than Yamcha, maybe this reputation as a punching bag comes from his defeat to the Saibamen. Since the first fight in classic Dragon Ball, Yamcha was overshadowed by Goku even as a child. In every martial arts tournament he entered, he was quickly eliminated, losing to Jack Shun, who was actually Master Roshi in disguise. He got beaten up by Tien Shinhan, and even lost to Kami when he used that weird disguise. He frequently lost in an embarrassing manner, getting struck by various moves. But to be fair, the guy doesn't give up. Despite numerous beatings, he continued training alongside the Z warriors to defend Earth. And when the Saiyajin saga arrives, even though he's behind Tien Shinhan and Kuririn, Yamcha had a lot of fighting power. About the same as Raditz, who had already given Goku and Piccolo a hard time, showing that in Dragon Ball, one thing that really matters is having access to the best training, and that's how you can really increase your power. And remember that this level, Raditz's power, is enough to destroy small planets like Mercury, already putting this Yamcha at a small planet level right from the start. The iconic death against the Saibamen actually happened because of a suicide attack, since a Saibaman wasn't as strong as Yamcha. The author sacrificed the character for the sake of the plot. After that, in the Namekusei arc, he was already losing his place in the story. After all, he was literally dead. But in the anime, he trains on Lord Kaio's planet along with the Z Warriors and ends up taking care of some members of the Ginyu Force. Then you might think, oh, but that's just a filler. And well, just like in the Naruto video, my intention was to make him as strong as possible so he could reach absurd levels, taking any interpretation as actually true, like Frieza, when he said on Namekusei that he could destroy the universe, but of course he couldn't. In Naruto's case, I even used hyperboles and the best arguments to boost him. Here in Yamcha's case, we're going to use everything he has, including these fights. I won't use content from fanfics or sources outside the anime and manga. In Dragon Ball, what's considered canon in Japan isn't strictly followed. Let's introduce Yamcha so he can have more feats. For example, he could defeat Rikum, since he was mostly discarded from the story after that point. And for those who forgot, except for Gudo, the other members of the Ginyu Force had power levels between 40,000 and 50,000. That means Yamcha became dozens of times stronger during this training. It's worth remembering that King Vegeta destroyed several planets with just 10,000 in power level, and that's really the level needed to destroy a large planet. And the jump from 10,000 to 40 or 50,000 is really huge. The power increase isn't just multiplied by 4 or 5 times, it's exponential. To sum it up, at this stage, Yamcha is already capable of destroying planets effortlessly, even stellar dwarfs depending on how you do the math. It's an impressive accomplishment for someone who was once afraid of a hungry kid in the desert and afraid of women, just like you watching. Many people believe Yamcha became a permanent background character in the Android saga. However, there's an overlooked detail that challenges this notion. In a real fight, he doesn't stand a chance against Android 20 and 19. He gets a hole in his chest, nearly dies, and later almost becomes a plaything for the Cell Juniors. But what few people talk about is why he was mistaken. When the androids show up, they don't recognize Yamcha, but they sense his ki and swear it's Goku. In other words, in Dr. Gero's mind, that ki was compatible with the base Goku he had modeled back then. And what was Dr. Gero's reference? The Goku who defeated Frieza on Namekusei, or at least the Goku who would have naturally evolved after that. Of course, Gero had no idea about the concept of Super Saiyajin, but he knew very well who Frieza and King Kuji were, so it makes sense to assume that he designed the androids to withstand a level above Mecha Frieza, which makes perfect sense. If what Yamcha did fooled the censors, that puts him at least above Mecha Frieza after all that training, which had more than 150 million in fighting power. Is it giving him the benefit of the doubt? For sure. Could I be talking nonsense? Absolutely. But in practice, we're talking about someone who, even far from Goku and Vegeta at that time, could be at a Star Destroyer level. Or even solar system level, considering Frieza could tank it. It's a level that most fans ignore because, let's be honest, Yamcha doesn't strike a pose. And in his role, he's always just quietly there among the monsters. It's also worth remembering that Yamcha was able to hold out for a while against the Junior Cells, who already had millions in power level. But the big problem is that this chance to shine evaporates over time. By the Buu Saga, Yamcha slacks off in training, avoids the main battles, and gets sent to the other world. Then comes the silent turning point. There, he trains again alongside the strongest of the dead and even fights against Lebu and Gorilla both at the same time. Do you recall Pekuhan and the two individuals who were close competitors with him? He faced the perfect heaven without falling behind. In other words, Yamcha at this point had the energy to fight against Heaven, or even against the Heaven Saga. Even though it's a filler arc, this isn't a video about how far each character would realistically get in that universe, but rather an analysis of the best possible Yamcha. Being an official character here. Alright, up to this point we see that Yamcha managed to at least reach the level of destroying solar systems, and in terms of speed, he keeps up with base Goku right after the Cell Saga. This implies traversing vast cosmic distances almost instantaneously. In other words, speeds that reach 4 trillion times the speed of light, with so many zeros that your mind freezes. I'm saying this based on the speed of characters like Goku himself from this saga, Paikuhan from this saga, and the other characters from this Otherworld saga, as estimated by the fanbase. This leads to an extensive debate, which is not my intention in this video. I'll have to deal with people who think the speed of light in Dragon Ball was only surpassed with Dispo. I've explained Dragon Ball speeds in multiple videos. Follow my channel to learn it all eventually. In Dragon Ball Super, the character virtually vanishes from the story. He's not called for the Tournament of Power, doesn't face anyone important, and ends up being more of an inside joke than an active fighter. He even pats Beerus on the back. In the main story, the only crumb they throw him is a line, in the Moro arc, where Yamcha says he's still among the 3 strongest Earthlings, only losing to Tenshinhan and Kuririn. Personally, I disagree and don't think he would beat Master Kami, who did that to Jiren, but he still holds some respect among humans. However, Yamcha was ultimately surpassed by nearly all non-Earthlings, since at this point, most of the prominent warriors in the series reach universal levels without effort. Still, for someone already mocked in internet memes, having a record of destroying planets, keeping pace with monsters like Cell, and traveling at insanely high speeds is impressive. His technique, the Wolf Fang Fist, may have even become a meme, but it's still better than a lot of jutsu out there. So the question remains, could this forgotten Yamcha stand up to the ninjas and gods that roam the Naruto universe? It's time to open up the Naruto-verse and find out. Well, when we analyze it, we see that even the first Yamcha already has a planetary level, even if it's just a small planet. As in Naruto, only from the Jounin level does someone become truly powerful, though some Jounins are still weak. As in the Kuririn video, I would need to bring only the top tier, most powerful characters to go head-to-head with Yamcha. Yes, even the first Yamcha. Do you recall the chaos caused by Madara's Edo Tensei? It was 2 giant rocks falling from the sky, something that's not even comparable to a Nappa explosion, or even Raditzu's strongest attack. That doesn't mean every ninja is useless. Even the most basic Jonins already have a level of destruction that can wipe out an entire village or even a city. Leaf Village Jonins like Kakashi, Guy, and Asuma are very skilled, but they don't compare to Yamcha. who has grown stronger throughout the Dragon Ball sagas. It's unfair. But what about Hashirama, Naruto, Madara, Kaguya, and a few other characters who break the rules and end up getting godlike powers, being the deus ex machina of the anime? Well, as has already been widely discussed in the video about how far Naruto would get in Dragon Ball, Naruto's top feats are mostly because of Kaguya, the 10 Tails, the Jinchuriki, the 10 Tails, the Divine Tree, the Infinite Tsukuyomi, and the raw power of characters who are capable of absorbing and shaping enough energy to affect an entire planet. There are even people who believe that Kaguya's dimensions are on a multiversal level, but even the most optimistic interpretation ends up being too optimistic for that, in my opinion. But Naruto, with the combined tailed beasts, and Sasuke, after receiving the Sage of Six Paths power, reached that same planetary level with ample margin. In Naruto, the strongest characters are significantly more powerful than the weaker ones, giving them a clear advantage in battle. Some claim that creating dimensions requires multiversal power, but these beings can at least reach planetary or possibly solar system levels. However, accomplishments in Naruto require more time and specific conditions compared to simple explosions in Dragon Ball. That's how the Rex work. So let's put Kaguya here, being generous, at the solar system level, maybe even a bit generous. It's not about destruction, but reaction speed. Fast characters like Naruto could react. Let's discuss speed. The top-tier people in Naruto do have feats of dodging or reacting to attacks that are described as light. Naruto himself does this in Madara's beam. Some jutsus are literally beams of light, but unlike Dragon Ball, there isn't solid scaling that multiplies this by millions. Can we say that the strongest cages are relativistic or faster than light? Yes, but nothing like quadrillions of times, and there's no basis for that. While the gods in Naruto are fast, their speed pales in comparison to characters like Post-Heaven Yamcha from Dragon Ball, who could keep up with base Goku as they flew through the galaxy effortlessly. So that leaves the ninja's final trump card, the Rex. After all, it's not just brute strength. Despite genjutsu, portals, forbidden jutsus, and defense-ignoring weapons, can they truly halt someone billions of times faster? Kuririn from the Cell Saga is often referenced in Dragon Ball power level studies as having a battle power in the millions. In summary, the strongest filler version of Yamcha would undoubtedly be godlike in the Naruto universe. But his more realistic and canonical version would also be very strong, needing at least characters like Naruto and Kudo to defeat him. Naruto, in Sage mode, wouldn't even stand a chance. I won't continue this video or discuss the hacks. I'll be bringing a Vegeta vs Sasuke video soon. And there, I'll talk all about how the Dragon Ball characters would react to genjutsu, and how a battle scenario would play out.